going to talk about the North American continent, because the North American continent, I find, so we're here to talk about the North American continent. I'm just not sure that I record this on time when the recording happened, but the North American continent, because we are from North America, we're more cultural. We're very cultural, multicultural in every aspect. And I'm going to start first with United States of America, because it had a lot of histories when it comes to pageants. And as I mentioned, back in the 60s and the 70s, when there was a segregation of African Americans and the Caucasians, it led to having Miss Black USA and Miss Black America, so that it could give opportunity and also to promote advocacy of equalness in race. So when the 80s came in, then now you could see a lot of African Americans placing well in national pageants in the United States. And I could tell you that because Vanessa Williams won Miss America 1984, even though she resigned and got reinstated in 2016 or 2015. She was the first African American that got crowned as Miss America. And then after that, even when she resigned, the girl that presented her, Suzette Charles, was also African American. And then you had years, especially in the 90s, where a lot of African Americans won Miss America. And so you could say that there's a lot of diversity when it comes to the Miss America pageant. And I'm not saying about Miss USA, because Miss USA also had their history, having in the 80s where a lot of African Americans have placed and even represented USA at Miss World. I think there was about 4 African American girls or ladies that represented USA at Miss World in the 90s. And I believe one of them was Halle Berry, who was Miss USA first runner-up. And then they had when the 90s up to the certain date, there are a lot of African Americans who are winning Miss USA. And Carol Gist, I remember. And then there's another girl that competed in Mexico. I forgot her name now, but she went to Mexico in 1993 and represented USA for Miss Universe. And I find her so beautiful, because she was like, I find her the Black Barbie. She was so beautiful, nice hair. But again, in Mexico, people were booing her. And that's really so sad, because I guess they were not really, and that's another topic, but a lot of Latin countries or in Asia, when they expect a girl that's representing the United States, they expect them to be Caucasian. And because she was not Caucasian, she was being booed. And if you need some proof of that, please go on YouTube, type in Miss Universe 1993, and you would see how they were so rude to her. And I really didn't like that. I felt so bad for her when she was competing. But then you had another girl that won Miss Universe, and she won Miss Universe. She was Miss USA, and she won Miss Universe. And apparently she died of liver cancer, or I guess it's liver or kidney. I had her name on top of my head. But she was the first African American who won Miss Universe. Chelsea Smith. she was my favorite Miss Universe, who is African American. And she did so well as Miss Universe, a lot of advocacy that she promoted, and did well as a public humanitarian spokesperson. And then also they had Crystal Stewart. So Miss USA became diverse. And then Brooklyn, who won Miss USA back, I believe, in 1996 or 1997. I'm not sure. And she won Miss Universe as well. So, and she's Hawaiian, so she had the poly-Asian background, Brooklyn. And she was so beautiful, a beautiful Miss USA and beautiful Miss Universe. And in the Miss Teen USA, just to let you know, there was a lot of multicultural girls who won that pageant as well. And my favorite Miss Teen USA of all time was Vanessa Manillo. And she's I think, the most famous Miss USA that ever won. Because that everyone who became famous after winning Miss Teen USA. Because she's working for MTV and done a lot of commercials, product endorsements. So there's a lot of I find it that Miss Teen USA has more Asian American background winning the pageant, because also in 1985 the second girl that won Miss Teen, or the third girl that won Miss Teen USA was Kelly Yu, and she's the second popular Miss Teen USA winner, I believe, because first of all, she was from Hawaii, but she had a Chinese background and poly-Asian background. And after winning Miss Teen USA, she actually became an actress and started doing films in Hollywood. And then she tried to compete again for Miss USA back, I believe, in 1994 or 1993, and did not win, but placed as the final 5, but did not get the final 3. So, but she's still famous. She just did a movie with The Rock, I think last year. So, Kelly Yu. There's also a lot of African American girls that won Miss Teen USA. But the most special thing about this is that African American girls are actually rocking the United States pageant, because last year's Miss America winner, I'm not talking about the 2020 Miss America because they hold that in 2019, but the 2019 Miss America winner was actually African American. And also Miss Teen USA 2019 is African American from Connecticut, and the reigning Miss USA is also African American. And to have them all win, an African American win, African Americans winning 3 titles, major titles in the States, is a history. So kudos to that, everyone. And I'm hoping that it will continue on. Not even African Americans, but maybe hopefully we can have more other cultures as well winning national pageants. So that is my topic for North America. I completely forgot about talking about Mexico. So let's talk about Mexico. Mexico has a standard beauty of Latina European background. And because all the girls that won international pageants from Mexico are tall, light-skinned, and model-esque. And that's why when Miss Universe was held in 1993 in Mexico, when they see the girl that represented USA, who was African American, they started booing her, because I find it more that they were not too accepting about a North American representing a country that they're more accepting to Caucasian, particularly blonde girls. Because again, even in Asia, when a girl that represents USA or Canada, they expect them to be Caucasian. And if the girl competes in the Philippines, let's say, or other parts of Asia, they don't usually do well, except for last year's Miss Earth, where the representative of the United States was African American, and she actually placed first runner up. So, but she was not favored by the fans. I noticed that. So, and again, Filipinos, don't hate me, because I'm just telling the reality of the fact that a lot of Filipinos or Asian or even Mexicans, when they see a girl that represents USA or Canada, they expect a Caucasian girl, and if it's not Caucasian, then they don't really pay too much attention. So that's what is sad about pageants. So hopefully things would change, especially in Mexico. And it goes also as well that when you're in the Philippines and then a Filipina girl winning a USA title or a Canadian title, and they go and represent Canada or USA in the Philippines, they don't do well. They don't even place. And that's so sad, because of the fact that they expect a USA queen or a Canadian queen to be Caucasian. So it's really sad, but I'm basically giving the honest reason why when a Filipina descent or an Asian descent girl representing Canada or USA, and they go to an Asian country where international pageant is held, or in Mexico, they are not favored by the pageant fans. So hopefully I didn't upset everyone, so please don't hate. Thank you. And now let's talk about Canada. Canada is something that I am so proud, being Canadian, that we're so multicultural. And I can tell you that because a lot of Canadian girls that represented Canada in international pageants back even in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and up to this point are very multicultural. So I could tell you that because a lot of the girls who represented Canada, mostly back in the 80s, like even Monica Schneider, a top model of the world, has a First Nations background. She's mixed with First Nations. So a lot of the girls that have won Miss Canada, the original Miss Canada as well, have First Nations background. And not only that, they had a girl who was a very famous Miss Canada because she was an MC or the MC of Electric Circus. Julia actually won Miss Canada and competed at Miss Universe in 1989 or 1990. And a lot of the girls also, even after the Miss Canada that was managed by CTV and Clio Productions in 1992, they had girls who have won national pageants that are multicultural. 2001, Neelam Verma competed for Miss Universe. She was she was East Indian. She was actually pure East Indian, and she won Miss Canadian Universe. We had Kristen Cho, who represented Canada at Miss World, is Korean. And there's other girls that represented Canada at Miss Universe. She was not the winner, but she was the first runner-up. But they sent her to Miss Universe representing Canada. I don't know if you know her name. If you can put that on the comment section below, please do so that I'm educated, because she's not at the Miss Universe Canada website. But she, it was when Sahar Binyaz was the reigning Miss Universe Canada. She represented, this girl was the first runner-up, and she represented Canada at Miss Universe. So I'm not going to talk about that point why Sahar did not compete at Miss Universe, because I have so much respect for Miss Universe Canada, and I believe that if you have any questions in regards to that, you can contact Miss Universe Canada, and they'll be happy to give that information for you. So even to this point, the Miss Canada Globe title holders are very multicultural. I, for one, was a Miss Canada Globe title holder, and I'm half Filipina, half Italian. Then we had a title holder who actually represented Canada at the Miss Globe, who was Haitian, Jessica Zephyr. And then we had Crystal Wilson, who was Jamaican Canadian. Trishan Renee, who was also Caribbean descent. And then we had also other girls representing Canada at Miss Universal Petite. That is Miss Canada Petite, who are also multiracial or mixed race, or from different background. Rochelle Rain, she's known Rochelle Rain. She's Miss Canada Petite. She was Jamaican background. Then we had Alicia Ohana, who is of Moroccan background and Jewish. And then we also had Ansha Joy Hippolito, who is of half East Indian and half Filipina. We also had Sharon Sandhu, who is Miss Canada Petite, and she's of East Indian background. So there's a lot that I can tell you. Even Miss Teen Canada Globe, Abhisheka Lloydson, who won Miss Teen Tourism Intercontinental. She is actually of Sri Lankan background. And if you go to our website, www.misscanada.tv, you would see all our former winners, and you could see that they're all multiracial, multicultural, different background, multinational backgrounds. So that's one thing that we're so proud of as MCGP queens. And there's also racism, and and if I ever hit someone, then that will be your problem, not mine, because I'm not going to mention your name or not going to mention your pageant. But I know that some directors prefer to crown someone who's like Russian looking, and even to a point where title holders have to dye their hair if they're blonde to brunette. Before, now it's not happening that much, but I know for a fact. And they're typically looking for blue-eyed or nice green-eyed, blue-eyed girl. So, and mostly they're the ones being crowned, and they have to look like a Russian-looking girl, European girl representing Canada. And again, I am not I'm not calling names, but it's the reality. And people who have joined that pageant, you know yourself, and actually you even mention it in videos from your own from your YouTube videos. So it's not only one particular person, but there's a few particular people that actually know about this. So I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of the girls who have entered their pageant, they know one specific look, and that's what it is. So again, I'm very proud of what Miss Canada, the original Miss Canada, happened, because when they said, and even Miss Dominion Canada, they're so multicultural, because again, we are so multicultural that race was never an issue of who they select. Even the new Miss Canada management, Miss Canada TM and Miss Teen Canada TM, a lot of the girls that are actually there are actually how can I say this, very multicultural. I know that for a fact, because one girl from Vancouver, or from BC, that they crowned, she also competed at Miss World, I believe, and she was also Miss Canada, and she is of Asian background. So kudos to Miss Canada TM and Miss Teen Canada TM for following the original Miss Canada, how they select their girls and how they try to be multicultural. So again, that's North America for you, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the Oceania. And the Oceania region, which is Australia, New Zealand, and other Polynesian background that are close to that area, are called Oceania. So I can tell you that because of the fact that they have indigenous people, it has been very multicultural. They never had racism issues because of the fact that they choose girls of who they are, and it's never been an issue of the color of the skin or their racial background. But I know for a fact that in early time of Australia, they had more of the selection of girls in the past, like in the 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They tend to pick girls who are blue-eyed and blonde girls. And if they're brunette, they have to be blue-eyed and tall. So that's the only thing. But New Zealand, Fiji, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, the girls that they pick could be Asian, could be Polynesian, could be Caucasian. They never had any issue when it comes to race. So kudos, Oceania. So let's talk about the South America. The South American continent, which also includes the Central America, such as Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Guatemala, Brazil, El Salvador. All of these are Latin pageant countries. But what I can tell you is that Latin countries such as Venezuela, Colombia, they don't have a racial problem. They love the girl for who she is. So I could tell you that there's a lot of girls who actually represented Colombia at Miss International who are dark skinned. Same thing at Miss Universe and Venezuela as well, where a lot of the girls could be Caucasian or could be African descent. But one thing I can tell you is that I don't see a lot of indigena or indigenous from those two countries that represents Colombia or Venezuela, but I could tell you that in Ecuador or Guatemala or El Salvador, they have girls who looks very indigenous, and kudos to them, because again, America, especially South America, North America, are all founded by First Nations. So it's just about right that we promote their race as well. But again, Latin American girls in Latin American pageant countries, they pick their girls based on who they are, if they deserve to win, and if they stand out, not because of their race or what background they come from. So that's my point on South American countries. So let's talk about Africa. So Africa, I could see them that they are actually growing still in the pageant industry. However, South Africa is very competitive when it comes to pageants. But they came to a point where there was racism during their pageant times, especially in the 70s and early 80s, where apartheid was happening, and it didn't a lot of African descent South Africans did not get a lot of fair opportunity to compete in a national pageant because there was always segregation. And therefore that's when again at Miss World, where the Caucasian South African girls, who whoever wins that is called Miss South Africa, and then the African descent South Africans are actually named Miss Africa South. So it's very sad that that we came in a moment in our world that actually that exists, and now you could see that South Africa is booming when it comes to pageants, and they're very multicultural. So kudos to that. And at Miss Universe, it came to a point when the apartheid was happening. The Miss Universe actually did not welcome South Africa to participate until when apartheid stopped in South Africa. That's when they were welcomed. So I just wish that, like in other parts of Africa, well, Namibia is also multicultural, because one year they had, like Michelle McLean, who won Miss Universe, was Caucasian Caucasian Namibian, and then the following year they had an African Namibian. So they're very multicultural. But in Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and other countries of Africa, they're still building their pageant world or their pageant industry. And I just wish that they get more support, because the girls that actually come to international pageants from those countries, they're not supported, and some of them couldn't really afford to get good gowns to compete in, good outfits during the pageant week, and that's why they're being left behind and they're not getting a lot of attention. So I hope that people in Africa, especially to those continents, that they get more support from the government, because the girls, the queens from those countries are actually doing a good job in bringing culture and educating people about the African region. So I just hope that not even from Africa, but other parts of the world, to support the African region and be able to boom it up, so that the other girls from other countries of Africa have a fair chance in winning international pageants. That's my opinion on African region. So to wrap things up, I see that a lot of the pageants now, even internationally, are gearing towards being modern. And I know that for a fact because the reigning Miss Universe from South Africa is South African, and she's Black Beauty and has short hair. So it proves that they're not just looking for a girl, the typical girl with long hair, extension filled, and model-esque. They actually crowned a girl from South Africa who is a trailblazer because she didn't had long hair, she didn't use weave, she didn't use a wig, she became so natural. And I noticed also, as well as with Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, if it was in the Trump era, they would turn them to become more of the Victoria's Secret models, and they would have them look like Tyra Banks or Naomi Campbell with straight long hair, and making them wear contact lenses, except for Tyra, who has nice hazel eyes and they're natural, to make them look like black Barbie dolls. And so I'm so happy with the Miss Universe organization actually having the girls, these beautiful African descent girls, African American for Teen USA and Miss USA, and for Miss Universe, who's African, to have them maintain their natural black beauty. And congratulations to that Miss Universe, because I am so happy that the pageant is getting so modern. And with Miss World, I know for a fact that Julia loves the different ethnicities, and that's the reason why they have a lot of Miss Worlds from India, a lot of girls from that are winning from Jamaica. They had girls from Trinidad. It's so mixed. So I always have respect with Julia Morley when it comes to picking the girl. Miss International, I know for a fact that they have crowned African descent girls at Miss International, and I'm happy about that. And Miss Earth, I've never seen an African descent girl that won Miss Earth, except when the winner from Bosnia and Herzegovina, who got dethroned, I believe she is the third Miss Earth on their third year, and she got dethroned. And then the first runner-up, who was from, I believe, Kenya or Ethiopia, I'm not sure. Again, she is the first African to hold the title of Miss Earth, but she was not the first African to win Miss Earth, because there's no African descent girl who have won Miss Earth. And other pageants, Miss Grand International. Well, Miss Grand International is leaning towards more of like having the Latino girls winning all the time, because they love that Latino look. I've never seen an African girl or an African descent girl placing at Miss Grand International. And if they do, but I never seen them place as in like top 5. So it's so sad. And hopefully Mr. Nawat would open up his mind and be more open-minded about different race and culture, because his pageant has potential, but it's not one of my favorite pageants, I can tell you that, because I just find it very theatrical, and making the girls look funny on stage. So, and the girls don't deserve that. At the Miss Globe, they have a lot of multicultural girls, and a lot of African descent girls or African American girls also have placed. So I know that because our very own Miss Canada Globe 2007, Crystal Wilson, was 4th runner-up. We won the crown in 2014, but she's not African descent. Miss Trinidad and Tobago from last year's pageant of the Miss Globe was 1st runner-up. So I know for a fact that the Miss Globe is very multicultural when it comes to different ethnicities winning. And I know that they love their Asian beauties as well. So we had Philippines winning Miss Globe in 2015. So Ann Collis, who I became her managing director. And I miss you, Ann. So just to let you know, I miss you. And also, they had India winning. Then they had Vietnam, China. And last year, so the winner was Mexico. So, and they had European girls winning. So again, you could see that they are very multicultural. So kudos to Miss Globe. And it's not because I'm a national director of the Miss Globe. That's why I'm saying that. But I know that because I lived it. So kudos, Petri. And then Miss Supranational, I haven't seen any I've never seen any African descent winning Miss Supranational. And I noticed that the girls that are winning Miss Supranational for it is someone who is very pretty, model-esque, and a performer. So I know that Philippines won. There was Supranational loves Asian girls. I noticed they love crowning Asian girls. India, Philippines, Korea, I know they love it. Even their Mr. Supranational pageant, I mean, last year's winner was from US, but the year before was from India. And I give it to them in regards to being multicultural on that. But I haven't had or haven't seen an African descent girl winning Miss Supranational. And Miss Intercontinental, again, I'm not a big fan of Miss Intercontinental pageants, but I've seen that they've crowned a lot of Latina girls. They've crowned one Filipino girl, but they've also crowned, I believe, twice an African descent girl. So I give them to that. Kudos, Miss Intercontinental, for being multicultural in your winners. But I'm not a big fan of Miss Intercontinental. So just to let everybody know. And I am not going to badmouth them. It's just there are a lot of a lot of things in their system that I don't agree with. So, but being multicultural, kudos to Miss Intercontinental. And then there's other international pageants, and I've mentioned in the beginning of the video, like if it's held in Malaysia or if it's held in China, most of the winners that they really look for are European girls, European or Caucasian girls, or Latin girls. So I wish that one day in Asia, I disregard the Philippines because Philippines is now starting to become multicultural, but mostly Chinese organizers that does international pageants, and even in Malaysia and in Singapore, don't crown all European girls or Caucasian girls, and don't crown Asian girls also as well. Do it as a mix, because I know that in Malaysia, when the pageants are there, it's either Asian girls or Latina girls that are winning the pageants. And then in China, I noticed that all the girls that are being crowned there are European girls or Asian girls. And even to the fact that even, let's say, that Asian girl that win is not even deserving to win because she doesn't perform very well. So I'm just being honest here, so please don't hate me. but it's the truth. So that brings the end to our review about racism in pageantry. And as I mentioned, we are now in the modern days where a lot of the pageants are changing their system, and they're becoming more open to a lot of different cultures. But one thing I could say is that I hope that there's no stereotypes, because it's really sad. Especially, I know that for a fact that when a girl represents Canada or USA that are not Caucasian, I know that because I experienced that when I competed, and they said, how could you represent Canada? You're not white. You're not you don't have blonde hair, you don't have blue eyes, or you don't have hazel eyes, your eyes are not light, and you're not tall. But I always say Canada is a very multicultural country, and it's not only that kind of race that exists in Canada. And just to let you know, we are 85% petites. Canadian women are not really known to be tall girls. We're average or petite. I know that for a fact, 80%, because again, from the background that people came from, especially coming from Asia and coming from Southern Europe and Africa. So, but I'm proud of the fact that being Canadian, we are so multicultural, and we never had any racial issues in Canada. And hopefully in the world can see that Canadian beauty queens are a one big melting pot. Brown, black, Asian, ivory skin, we're all beautiful because God makes us to be different, and that's what makes Canada so great, because we are different. We are different people, but we unite as Canadians. So thank you so much for joining. Have yourself a wonderful evening and wonderful day. And please like, share, and subscribe to this video, and hit the bell button so you can get subscription and updates on all our new videos. Have yourself a wonderful evening. My name is Maya Santapilar. Thank you very much for joining the Canadian Pageant Network.